I want to know everything about Bump Ass Virginia.
Yeah, we need
Bump Ass Virginia. It's
Let's hear
hot.
it.
There's bugs. Sweaty. Well, I indulged a little too much last night. Are you guys familiar with a Borg?
With overindulging? Yes, very much so.
We've all been there.
Absolutely.
So, I guess it was a few years ago. These people at a party that I went to, they said, "Hey, here, try some of this," and it's this gallon jug, and they called it a Borg. So I've been kind of on this. It's mostly water, vodka. What's that stuff? Not Pedialyte, but yeah, you can use Pedialyte. Something to hydrate you again. An energy drink,
like a liquid death or
and then,
something.
Oh no, liquid IV, a liquid IV, and then a Mio for like some flavor and color. Anyway, it's the stupidest thing. So we were out on the boat, and I'm just standing at the front of the boat, like George Washington on the Delaware, just holding my board forward. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I woke up this morning feeling not so fantastic.
Well, you know what? Thank you for joining us, Eric. I'm glad that you were able to. It's funny. So we always kind of shoot our episodes in advance, and Stephanie reached out, and we're like, all right, like this will be like our first one where Eric is like on vacation, and then we tried like an hour ago to see what it would look like, and we're like, well,
I'm glad this episode isn't dropping like tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gonna take me forever.
It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday right now, right?
Today is Tuesday. Yep.
Today is Tuesday.
All right,
July 1st.
Great.
That's it.
All day long.
Bill, well, thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat.
I feel like you're having a much better day than I am. Like, much better.
Bill,
I
how was your
am
day?
very relaxed.
So let's talk about it. I've been fucking driving around my kids all day long. Like, okay, so all right. So my ex-wife has this thing where she goes, I think the kids need like chill time during the summer. And in my head, I was like, I fully disagree with this statement, full out. And so right now we're in the midst of chill time. And what chill time translates to is I sit around waiting for my daughters to text me where I need to drive to next. And that's how I spend my day. And neither of them, particularly the younger one, have any concept of the fact that like I have to work, I have a job, I have like things to do that aren't just driving her places. And it's like no matter what I say, I'm like, all right, where are you going? How are you getting there? How are you getting home? There's like no sense of time or like the world or anything. So all I do all day today really is just drive around my kids. And I really wanted to kill her. Anyway, there you go. Put that on the radio.
You know what?
Yes.
Now I feel like my day's been all right. I went to Taco Bell for lunch.
Yes, you did.
What'd you get?
So there was that. I had the like little thing of nachos and 2 burritos.
Nice.
And so my day's been all right, but I feel like we were recording an episode like 2 weeks ago, and my daughter was just screaming at the door, and it sounded like she was getting murdered. And she was like, "No, I just wanted you to come say goodnight." And then it's like,
you felt like a jerk.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. And then I felt bad, and then because I had to walk away. But let's talk Jam Van.
Good segue.
Right? This is a good segue, right? Is that
clean?
So, I spent the last, 2 days watching it. I mean, granted, I could have done it, but I watched and then I listened to the album. So, what is Jam Van?
So Jam Van's an interesting story. So Jam Van is a show I created with my friend Brian Hunt, who works at this place called Believe Entertainment. And it's like a cartoon live action show for children that was originally produced by YouTube Kids Content. And we worked on it for a long time. And it's a great list of the animations done by this company in Vancouver. Yeah, called Global Mechanic, and they're amazing. And anyway, so and it's the story of these 2 characters, Lamb and Ann, and they drive around the country in their Jam Van, and they have a grumpy GPS that's voiced by Mark Maron, which is pretty funny. And they like go and they meet. They have a problem, and they go and they meet somebody, and they solve the problem, and they sing a fantastic song. And that's pretty much the whole the whole crux, of Jam Van. And so we made the show, it came out on YouTube on a Thursday. On a Friday, YouTube Kids content, as we know it, closed. So the show sort of disappeared into the ether, which was kind of a drag. But we got to make an album. So the album just came out a couple weeks ago, and the album's full of a lot of hits, particularly some pretty mega wattage stars there to sing some songs, which was super cool. And yeah, and I'm super excited about it. It sounds great, and it was an honor to work with both the songwriters and the performers that are on Jam Van. And I think it sounds pretty good. Not gonna lie.
So yeah, like every episode and every track had it was like S tier musicians. It was like everyone was just a banger. So the episodes, those songs, did they get re-recorded for the album, or did those songs just kind of get extrapolated for the album? Like, how did that work? Right?
So we remixed them and we put in some different elements for the recording itself, just to make it sort of, CD. Do we even say that anymore? Just to make it
CD.
I know, right? Don't worry. I'm going to get my cane. I'm 108 years old. And I left my walker over here. Oh man, CD. Christ. Anyway, it's so sad. I like that we can all share this moment. Okay. Anyway,
yes, this is great.
So we remixed them. I think I put on some live musicians. Just do the normal things you do for an audio release versus a TV release, and and then I think it just took a while to sort of get everybody's permission to do it with all the labels and all the nonsense, and then once we did that, it was ready to go. And then we have a cool distribution deal with Orchard, and they were kind enough to put out the record, so here we are talking to you. Fantastic.
So yeah, we're so happy to have you. So how does that work though with when you were doing the episodes, did you have I know sometimes you'll see a role is made for a specific person. Did you say, "Oh, I want Fitz in the Tantrum for this," or did you just kind of those pieces all fell together? Or
so with shows like this, also sort of with shows like Sesame Street, which I've been working on for what feels like my entire life. You sort of book the talent first, and then once you have the talent, you sort of play around that. So we were fortunate enough to book Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's been my friend since we were 19. So that was an easy ask, and he agreed to be on the show, which was great. And then once there, it's sort of David, who's also sort of a friend of mine, and then blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it all sort of fell into place after that. And then once we sort of lined up, and the interesting thing about Jam Van is they go to a specific place. So the guest had to be sort of intrinsic to that place. So we sort of if it's Virginia and if it's Philadelphia, we tried to go after who would be the greatest person from that place. So of course, having Boyz II Men from Philadelphia was pretty cool. But yeah, and so then once you lock in the talent, and then we sort of went all over the country, sort of filming them in different places and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it sort of fell in after you lock in the talent. Oh, and then of course, you have to write the songs. And I'm fortunate enough at this point in my career to know some pretty fantastic songwriters. So I sort of tried to get the best ones I could find, including Greg Wells, who did a lot of The Greatest Showman and Wicked, and Butch Walker, who writes songs for everybody, and Sam Hollander, who writes all of Panic at the Disco and Fits in the Tantrums music, and myself and a few other people to sort of fill out the songs and make them cool.
How cool is that though to have these resources to pull from? I mean, that's pretty fucking dope, right?
It's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's every day I sort of and then I'll meet somebody. Okay, here's a great example. I'll meet somebody in my other walk of life, and the thing is having the Sesame Street calling card is sort of makes all doors sort of amazingly open. So I was a big fan of this band called Guster. I don't know if you know Guster, but I've been a huge Guster fan my whole life. They're this acoustic rock awesome band from Massachusetts.
They did a cover of Violent Femmes, no?
They did.
Okay, all right. So I do know Guster, yeah.
Anyway, I met Guster through a friend, and I was I'm the music director of Sesame Street, and he was no way. And I was yes. And he's can I write? I was do you want to write a song? He's absolutely. So then he sort of came on board, and that's sort of how this sort of thing happens. And I've been sort of very fortunate enough to have some great people to work with. It is cool. The Rolodex is pretty slamming at this point. If you need a kid's song, I'm pretty sure I'm the guy you should call. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so I was doing some background and just kind of going deep diving through your life, not to be a
How'd
weird
that go?
kind. Well, so
he's on a list.
3,000
labeled a stalker.
Yeah,
now.
so yeah, also I'm I'm not allowed to, yeah. But 3,000 Sesame Street songs?
Yeah, I've written a lot of songs. It's like, every year there's a lot. There's sort of like the ones that are on the show, the ones that are on like digital platforms, the ones that are everywhere. It's a lot of music. It's constantly playing. I think that number might be inflated a little bit, but it is a lot of songs. And it's what I tell people is like, at this point, I sit down, and if I can't in this chair, and if I can't sort of figure it out in about 15 to 20 minutes, then I like go and take a nap, or I walk the dog, or I do something like that so that I can sort of have like, what's wrong with me? And if I can't write it after that, then I give it to one of those people we were just talking about, because I don't think I have it. And the thing is, here's another great story about writing songs, about that many songs, is many years ago, I'd written a song for some kid show, and then they called me like I don't know, a year later, and they're like, "Can you write this song?" So I wrote that song, and then they sent it back to me, and they're like, "Hey, not to sound mean or nothing, but this sounds a whole lot like that." And they sent me back a song that I wrote, and it sounded more or less exactly the same. There's this like old John Fogerty from Creedence thing about how he copied himself. So I like fully copied myself, and like I had no idea, and it was really demeaning. And I was just like, oh man, I finally got to that point where I'm like, I'm so old and senile that I've forgotten that I already wrote that song. That was pretty embarrassing.
I mean, I feel like that's probably, I don't want to say like easy to do, but when you've written so much, at some point you're going to kind of forget. Like, if I asked you every song you wrote, would you like, it can't all be in here still, right? So at some point you're going to kind of recycle stuff.
Yeah, and I can barely remember, like, if you played a song, there's actually been instances in the last few years where my guy who works for me, who's sort of the runner of all things, he'd send me a bunch of songs, and I'd be like, did I write these? He's like, yes. And I'd be like, oh, like I have no recollection of doing any of that stuff. And if you asked me to like sit down and do it and like play it back to you, there's no way. I couldn't. I have to like sit for a long time and sort of figure that out.
So when you write a song, is it kind of like you do it, you write it, you record it, and then like that's it because you're doing so much, or do you have to like kind of keep it in here for a little bit, or how does that work?
So it depends, like, on the show. So a lot of the kid shows, well, yeah, a lot of the kid shows, sort of all of it's done like right here in front of this computer with all of this junk and stuff everywhere, And so it's just like me at a piano, at a computer. I write it, I sing it, and then it gets sent to like a producer to be like, it's great, it's not great, and then it gets sent back to me, and then whatever character it is, whether it's like Nature Cat, it's a cartoon, or if it's like Don Quixote, like a puppet, they send me the vocals, and then we mix them here or mix them wherever, and then we sort of figure out what instruments need to be replaced so it doesn't sound like a computer, et cetera, and then we send it off. And that's that example. In Sesame Street has, for the past 56 years, had a live band. So Sesame Street, everything is then re-recorded by a band of 9 people every Monday in Brooklyn. And so we go there and we record all of the music for Sesame Street. And so that's pretty cool because you get to sort of get all of the impact and the excitement of live instrumentation and live players, and sort of takes the stuff to the next level, which is a very rare thing in kids music. Like there's not a lot of bands. Like the only bands in New York, for example, are like Colbert, Jimmy's band, The Roots, and like us. And like that's it. There's like no other sort of live band thing that happens in this state. So it's pretty cool.
Is Sesame Street shot in New York?
It is. Sesame Street is shot at Kaufman Astoria Studios in Queens, which is it's been for the past, I don't even know what. There's these 2 big studios in Queens. One's called Silver Cup, where like The Sopranos was shot, and and the other one is Kaufman Astoria, where sort of everything else is. So it's one or the other.
I know that.
I don't know. I just always assume everything's out in California for some reason, and I know that
is the assumption, and most of it is. But for these particular shows and these particular things, they are those are the ones that. And there's a few other. There's the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and there's actually one that's being built, a new studio that's being built on the West Side Highway, right when you get near 57th Street, which is wild because I never thought they'd get it together to do it, but it's there. So we'll see.
Can I tell you how devastated I was to find out that like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia isn't just filmed in Philadelphia, like at some bar, like they're not just filming in Patty's Pub. Devastated, absolutely devastated.
I know.
They are in California, aren't they? I'm pretty sure that's 100% not. We don't have Danny DeVito really running around Philly.
No, the exteriors are shot. Some of the exteriors I bet they shoot in Philly, but like for the most part, I bet no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's that's everything, you know? It's like everything is on a lot in California. It's supposed to look like somewhere else. But then it's also like I remember seeing the movie version of Rent, and it's like it was definitely shot in a backlot in LA, and they started to make it look like the East Village, and it just looks ridiculous. And you're just like, that's just ridiculous. That doesn't look like that at all.
so Eric and I years ago did the Hollywood the Universal like backlot tour, and that was the first time I've ever like been on a set, and they were like, this is where Westworld, but also Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mhm.
We shot both of them
Oh, wow.
right here. But then like right next to it was like I guess a scene from like War of the Worlds.
Mhm.
And I don't know why that for us was just
Yeah.
like
Oh, but they
a mind
they'll like
fuck.
keep the sets up. They'll keep certain sets up to do things in the future with, or what was that? What was that TV show with the neighborhood? And it's like, hey, if you have a suburban scene with a bunch of houses up front and a bunch of cars driving by, this is where it happens. And it was like a whole neighborhood, but
Mhm.
the houses were fake. It was just so weird. I don't like seeing how
But
the sausage is made.
Yeah, I'm on film sets all the time, and every time I'm just like, "Really? Real? This is how we're doing this?" You know, it's like the exterior of a thing is just like a piece of wood. It's like, "Oh, right." Or like I did a thing with like in a theater with the crowd, and half the crowd was real people and half the crowd was just like cardboard cutouts of people. You know, it's just like stuff like that. It's like,
does
who wants to
that
pay for that?
does that take away I hear it's like or I assume it's like working at Disney World, right? Where you're like, oh, the magic when you go
Yeah.
there is super special, but when you work there, like this place fucking blows. You know? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like you're just being like you're just being magic tricked upon, you know? But I don't know. It depends. I'm more of like I like to see how the sausage gets made too. I'm way more interested in that. It doesn't I mean there's sometimes you come onto Sesame Street and people be like, "Oh, that's how they do that," or then so that part of it's sort of cool. But then, like, I remember I brought my 3-year-old daughter to Sesame Street once, and she was like mystified and like couldn't believe what was going on. And then she came back when she was like 6 or 5 or something, and she kept on looking around Elmo to see like who is this guy who had his arm up Elmo's butt, and she like couldn't believe, you know. And then she kept on doing that. It was really funny. It was really funny, and so I don't know. I guess it depends on what kind of magic you're into. Whether you're into the sausage making magic or the seeing you to believe it.
so like in Sesame Street, are they just covered up? Like or are they just like right like if you go on the set of Sesame Street, do you just see someone with their hand up Elmo's butt? Like and
Yeah,
you can just see that person?
absolutely. And the thing about the puppets and the thing about the magic of Sesame Street is that's way more like magic first. And so like even when kids are speaking to Elmo, 9 times out of 10, there's no even like the person behind is not even a thing. It's just like they're talking to Elmo, they're fully entranced by the whole thing, and the person like sort of doing Elmo is at least to most children is like is not even there. Is like a shadow or like, you know. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask if it's like one of those things where it's like, hey, stop making eye contact with, you know, with that guy, look at the puppet. Or I
oh,
guess if the magic's there, you know.
they always look at the puppet. There's never any eye contact with the puppeteer ever.
Elmo never
think-
has to say, "Hey, my eyes are up here."
No, yeah, I know, that's funny. No, never. It's always like because he's like right in your face and it's like so intense and the voice and the thing and the da 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 and it's like and no kid is ever like really not swept up in that magic, which is really the magic of Sesame Street. To be honest, it's just everything.
Well, and then are there like I guess like anyone who's like not a kid is probably already an actor and knows how to handle that situation. Like are adults coming on that show first time too and also kind of entranced by that? I mean
I always
Sesame
say
Street.
I always say to people about Sesame Street, when you come on the set of Sesame Street, it's like walking into the Oval Office. I've never walked into the Oval Office, but like I think it's like that same sort of like take your breath away thing. And like people have all kinds of different reactions. Like it's either like they didn't know how everything was spaced out, like where the step, like what the architecture of it is, or the logistics of it. But most of the time it like smells different and they're like the temperature does something and you're just like, you can't sort of believe that you're in there. And and I forget about that. And then I'll have people come visit and they're like, "Home, I can't believe you work here." You know, it's like, this is like a magical, magical place. And yeah, it's wild. And everybody has their own sort of visceral reaction to it. There's no like standard Sesame Street reaction. So it's really fun to see what people's reaction will be.
And I'm assuming it's probably always been that way, right? Like I've never heard like anything negative about Sesame Street, and I'm sure there probably is, like with everything, but like that's just the one show that has just been the show. You know,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah, I
talk
think
bad about it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard place to like not also like go in there and like not have a smile on your face. And like granted, it's still a job and there's still a lot of work to do and the people there work so hard. But including my girlfriend. My girlfriend's one of the lead producers of Sesame Street, so I have to go see her at work, which is a whole other subject we can talk about later.
Tough.
No, it's great. It's most of the time it's great because I don't go there too often. So when I do, it's like a nice little visit, and she's fantastic, and she sort of runs the show and is part of the producer team, and it's great. So yeah, I call it, when I tell people I work there, I call it the leprechaun effect, which is like, I'm the music director of Sesame Street. And they look at me like I'm a leprechaun because that's no way that's a real job. And it sort of feels like that. Like, and everything about it sort of feels like that. You sort of can't believe, A, that it's a job, B, that you get to do it, C, that you get to reach as many people as you get to reach and all this stuff. And then the impact really that it has on everyone. Like that's the point, right? So it's like we're whatever age we are, and it's what everybody has in common. Like we all sort of pay our taxes, and we all like sort of grew up on Sesame Street in one way or another, or our kids did, or we have some sort of relationship to it. And there's really nothing else in the world that you can say about that like anything that's like that at all. And so I mean there are things, but like for the most part, it's like I learned how to speak English, or I learned how to speak another language, or I learned ABCs and 1 2 3s, or I learned this, or I learned how to be compassionate, or I learned about the and so that's pretty major. And like that's, it's a blessing and a curse. I think it's like this amazing privilege to be a part of that, but it's also like you have to be on your A game all the time there and like always bring the best stuff you have, because I always feel like that job is so important that the minute you stop bringing it, you should quit, because it's so important.
Well, it's interesting too, because I feel like Sesame Street really is one of those shows. I mean, I remember there was that episode where like Elmo's uncle died, and they talked about death, like, and I know like Rugrats did it a little bit, but like it wasn't like let's dance around the topic. It was like let's attack it head on, and that I feel like that's still pretty rare. Like the way that they though do it with kind of that empathetic mindset and the making sure that kids can kind of comprehend that content, and I think that's huge. Like my daughter will turn on YouTube and watch brain rot. Like what she's watching isn't the stuff that I really necessarily want her to watch.
Amen.
Right. But yeah, yeah. So no, I think that's cool that there is so much like heart, I guess, without sounding cheesy, that goes into it to make it such a awesome program.
My favorite thing about that place is everybody who works there loves it and cares so much about it. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Eric.
This is bringing up memories. Sorry, I'm probably very delayed. I feel like I'm not only am I a potato today, but so is my internet.
We've already moved on from Sesame Street.
Oh, that was 5 minutes ago, right?
Yeah. Right.
My mom told me, she said that she took me to an audition to be on Sesame Street when I was a kid, and apparently, as soon as they turned the camera on, it would have been a long time ago. Apparently, as soon as they turned the camera on, I was just like picking my nose the whole time. Like I just froze up and didn't do anything. So, I missed my big chance a long time ago.
That makes me think, I don't know if you ever, if you watch The Office, but there's that scene when like Michael Scott was like on that old program as a kid, and he was like, he said something about like having like a lot of friends, and everyone like in the office, they were looking at him like, damn, that's really fucking sad. I feel like you were Michael Scott, Eric.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Take it.
My daughters were extras on Sesame Street, and they were fairly little, and they were in the background in what was the longest opening scene ever in Sesame Street history. And during the time they were in the background, they like bickered and fought they were throwing a ball back and forth. And like one of them kept on dropping it and the other one got mad at it. And if you watch it and you know them now, they're like 14 and 12 now. But like at that time they were like 6 and 4 or something like that. And it's so funny because it's like their personalities encapsulated in this one moment, and they keep on looking at the camera and like looking back and this whole thing, and it was just so funny. And so now they think it's fun to like show their friends when they were on Sesame Street, and it's ridiculous. And
do they leave that kind of stuff in? Like, will that
Mm-hmm. I mean, they only shot it like 3 times, and so in every one of them, one of my daughters was like, like
we only got 3 takes. So. so every Monday. So how does that look shooting wise? Is it an episode every Monday?
So it shoots for like 3 weeks. No, shoots for like a month and a half. So it's like 2 weeks on, a week off, 2 weeks on, a week off. And it's an episode a day because it's 26 episodes. So it's 26 days. And there's other little things here and there. And then once that's over, there's like a month or two of like editing and nonsense like that. And then the band goes into the studio in now what will be at the end of July, starting every Monday until the end of the year, where we just like record an episode a day. It's usually what it is. Something like that.
And but you already have those songs written when you go there?
Yeah, so it's songs and underscoring. So it's like there's usually about one song per episode, and then all the underscoring is written by this guy named Joe Feidler, who's been with me forever. And so I will watch the show and sort of note what I think needs to be underscored, and then he'll go and do it. And we've been doing this forever, so we have this very funny shorthand that says like shtick to a bounce, or shtick to a big crescendo ending, or something like that. And he'll know exactly what I want, and then just do it. And then the band meets and plays it, and then we put it back in the thing, and then that's it.
Now, I have to ask, do you ever write any songs and then you think they're like fire, and then everyone's like, yo, butt cheeks?
So this is my entire life, what you just said. So I've been doing this going on. So let's see. I started doing this when I was like 25, right? I'm now 44. So that's, do the math, 19, 20 years. So I still, after all this time, I can think that I've written the greatest song since Aaron Copland and Tchaikovsky or the Beatles, the greatest song ever. I will present it to I will email it to producers, and it will be like, it'll just say like, can you try again? Or something like that. And at the same time, I will write something. I'll be like, this sucks, but I can't think of anything else. And I'll send that, and they'll be like, this is the greatest thing ever. So I have no barometer to this day. And so people have to say, like, what's the secret? How do you write great songs? Blah, blah, blah. And the answer is, I have no idea. And so I will stick to that song. And I've talked to other songwriters who like have the same issue, like the greatest songwriters of our, like Max Martin, the greatest songwriter of our generation. And he says, I don't know. Sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. And it's just like totally subjective. And he thinks it's going to be great. Sometimes it sucks or doesn't go as well as you think. So wild.
We were having this conversation about like even like not necessarily music, but like social media posts, and like you post something and you'll spend like 18 bazillion hours editing it. Like, this is it. This is going to be the post. And then they're like, everyone's like, this is stupid. But then you post something really stupid, and that's the one.
Yeah. And I watch my daughters like TikTok and stuff all day. And it's like the stuff that they want and they enjoy is so like, I feel like, come on, girls, like the production value, like get your shit together and like what, but it's like, it's, it's not, it's not that. That's not the vibe right now. It's just like a different way of thinking about it. I couldn't even quantify or tell you what it is. I just know that like, it's not that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the long production value sort of situation. It's like,
no,
quick.
It's all, and like it's that short form content. And we were having this conversation, and she was like, like that's what everyone wants to consume, that short form content. And so like my daughter will always put on YouTube Shorts, and then at the end of every video, make sure to like and subscribe, or you hate your parents. She's like, well, I gotta like and subscribe. I'm like, now this person has like 100 billion views.
Mm-hmm. I had to come downstairs to get away. There's 5, 6 kids upstairs from here just watching YouTube Shorts right now. Like that's all that they've been doing.
Yep.
The weather's kind of rainy right now, so they're not outside, but it's weird.
How did you guys start this podcast and call it Daddies Podcast? I didn't do research. Why?
I love this story. Okay.
Give it to me.
All right.
Because I was like, I'm a dad. I'm going to love this podcast. Let's do it.
It's funny because like everyone always assumes it's either some sort of pseudosexual podcast.
Well, I thought for a second I was like, and then I was like, no. It's not. Those guys don't look like that. But I could be wrong. You never know. You fucking never know.
Gotcha.
Never know.
No. So, years ago at my wedding, so about 11 years now.
11 years ago.
Eric, my mom was coming on to Eric pretty hard. And so.
I did not think this is where this is
headed. Right. Now this story
is so good. No. Okay.
So Eric and I met in 2013. We worked together, like our real jobs. We worked together for a nonprofit here in Delaware. And so I love you manned him into my wedding. I had a destination wedding in Jacksonville, Florida. We're in Delaware. I was like, hey, one of my best men backed out. You're already coming. And Eric was like, nah, I'm good. And then I was like, hey, well,
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like, wow.
And so like we were cool at the time, but we weren't like close like we are now, you know? So I was like, all right, I will rent your tux for you. Come on out. You're already coming. Just please be my wedding. So he did. And my mom, we were at the rehearsal dinner, was just coming on to him so hard. And even at the wedding, that her boyfriend at the time had to pull her away from him.
Wow.
So then when we got back, we were like, you know what would be funny if you married my mom and I married your mom? We would be dad brothers, maybe.
Got it.
It sounded right in our head. So then we're like, let's start. So let's backpedal even a little bit further. So Eric and I used to get paid to mukbang on camera before mukbanging was a thing.
Really?
So yeah.
Oh, my daughters are obsessed with that. I love it. Okay, go on. This is fantastic.
So we were doing that, and so it got to the point though where like Eric put on like 50 pounds. I ended up in the hospital. I went into septic shock, and like just from having this massive kidney stone that blocked my right kidney, so bad that I had to have emergency surgery. So we're like,
I can't tell if you're making this up or this is the actual story.
Oh no, this is real. Yeah, this is it.
This is real.
Yeah,
very real.
So then we were like, well, let's not do that anymore. But people were like, oh, you guys are kind of funny. You know, you should start a podcast. Like everyone wants to have a podcast now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was about a year ago. So we're like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And it'll be called Dad Brothers, the podcast. Well, Dad Brothers was already taken by like a fun Christian household podcast.
No.
So we're like, well, fuck. So then we're like, well, I guess Daddy's the podcast it is. And
here we are.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story. I feel like you have like 4 different versions of that story that like end differently. It's like a choose your own adventure. But like either way, so wait, what happened with your mom and Eric?
Well, so now they're married and Eric's my dad.
Right. And that was perfect.
Greg,
it's like
he doesn't have to call me
he's
dad.
your stepdad.
Yeah, no. Right. Not even if there's a fire. But no, it's funny though, because like I don't like, and
you know
my
what, Greg,
mom doesn't know that. She's
it.
always like, why do you call yourself that? I haven't told her the story.
Can you bring her on? Can you call her right now? I have so many questions. I want to talk to your mom.
That would be great.
Don't.
So she always asks whenever. So my mom lives down at the beach, so I don't see her like all the time. But when I do see her, she's always like, "How's Eric? He's just so handsome." And
you're like, if you only know.
If only you know what we were talking about.
Greg, I'm thinking back. Anytime I come over to your house and she's over there, you guys always have a big salad, and I always make the joke. I'd be like, "Hey, I guess I'm going to toss the salad." And then she loves it.
Jesus.
She always makes me. She goes,
that
"Eric,
shit
are you
up.
going to toss that salad?" I don't think she knows what that means. Just when we find out.
This sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit, like flat out, just like tossing salad. Awesome! What a fucking story that is.
And so when we first started, it was very much just Eric and I talking about one topic with no video. So we would talk in the room that I'm in, and no video because we didn't know how to do that yet. And then we would end the episode eating fucking candy, but no one could see it, and just sucking on hard candy and talking about it. It was, and we did that for a good 3 to 4 episodes. And we're like, this is dumb. And
don't ever want anybody to go back and start on episode 1. Please don't. Well, what did somebody say to us? Your first 100 episodes of your podcast just suck. They're just gonna suck. Like until you get good. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, like for us, then we were like, well, why don't we start bringing in other people? So then we went down this rabbit hole of just interviewing soap makers. Like we were interviewing artisan soap and like hygiene people. And then, you know what? I gotta tell the story, Eric, or at least, so our first like real guest, William Hung, he was the one that started our
America's Top Talent,
American Idol. She Bangs.
Holy shit!
He was our first guest, and then I picked up and then I was able to like kind of like, you know what, that it's funny, but William Hung gave us the confidence to go out and approach people and just shoot our shot and try to develop something.
That's awesome.
I know. And
Hung,
here we are today.
He's the gateway podcast guy. So I did a podcast for 8 years. I mean, right? I did a podcast for 8 years. The first 100 episodes are terrible. Like that's always how it is. Everybody talks on it over another and blah, blah, blah. It's a disaster. And then we were like eating fried chicken and like falling asleep. And you could hear it. Like it was terrible.
Well, it's funny because Eric was we were I think we were actually shooting the episode with the Pop-Ups, and who were also based out of New York, and Eric was like, I haven't eaten. Do you think it's rude if I eat while we're doing this? And I was like, do not fucking eat a burrito into this mic, because I'm the one that I do all the mixing and shit, and nobody wants to hear you. And I was like, and it's funny you say that. So evidently, Daniel Craig was on a podcast, and he was eating spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, yo, fuck Daniel Craig and that spaghetti. And I was like, well, I don't want to get the Daniel Craig treatment. And he's super famous, you know what I mean? But apparently people don't want to hear you slurp in for an hour.
Weirdly, no one wants to hear that.
I do want to hear it, you know?
Mukbang guys want to hear slurpy soup for an hour? Like, that sounds right.
Bill, as soon as you leave, we're just going to start eating. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Same. Absolutely. I probably have to go pick up another kid, but after that, then I will eat something.
It's funny. I have two, like, I can hear them running around. Like, if I turn this computer, you see like just a bunch of shit, and then there are kids out there, 2 glass doors, and they're just out there running back and forth. Yep. They're just tearing the house up while my poor wife is out there handling it. All right, but I do before I forget this question, because I feel like it's pretty good. So Sesame Street. How did was there any overlap when you were doing Jam Van, like the music for that, or are you able to kind of separate, like, all right, I want this song for this, and like, how does that work when you're writing so many fucking songs for a program, you know?
Yeah. So what I try to do, although sometimes and most oftenly not that successful at, is like space things out, so I'm never kind of doing like more than 2 or 3 things at the same time, like shows. And sometimes that'll backfire where you're like doing 3 different shows at the same time and it's a disaster, and that's a whole other story. But like Jam Van happened like we wrote it and filmed it over about a year. And so it was spaced out enough, and like I had asked other people to write the songs enough that it wasn't so much on me, which is great. And I've actually, over the years, it's funny, like, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like, as a person who like writes music, as I get older, I actually write less and less music. Like now I just sort of run a company of people. And then I just like, if it's a song about this, I know this best guy to do it is this guy. Or if it's a song that needs this vibe, like that's the guy. And so I'm really good at figuring that out. And so I spend much of my day, I think as many people do, like on the phone or like looking at a calendar or like doing a Zoom. And like I'm scoring a film right now, and it's like the first time I've sat down to score a film in God knows how long, and it feels weird to like suddenly have to be creative after just mostly just answering questions and what I call kissing babies and shaking hands, because there's a lot of that too. But yeah, so depending on the project, like how far up the food chain I go and how much I do or do not do the actual writing of the music, just really depends on the project. So yeah, it's a the only way I can make it work is by like having like I have really loyal people that I work with, and they're incredible, and I lean on them really hard, but they lean on me really hard, and it sort of works. Like I've been with the Sesame Street band's been the same people for 16 years. The guy who works as my number 2 has been with me for 10 years, and like he and I just sort of he writes every morning. He writes, "Good morning, sweetheart. How are you?" Like every morning at 8 a.m. Not my girlfriend, not my kids, my assistant. I call him my assistant. That's not the great thing to call him. His name is Tyler Hartman, and he's incredible. Anyway, there you go.
Now, you mentioned scoring a film. Are you allowed to say what film that is, or no? Super secretive?
I don't think it's super secretive. I won't mention the title. It's a really cool film. It's funny. It's I don't know if I should mention it. It's like a horror comedy movie. Here's a great story. Want to hear a great story?
Yeah, I love great stories.
So I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut, and there was this girl there who I was loved the entire time I was there, and she knows this. This is the only reason I can say this out loud. I loved her so much, and I knew I went home with her. We never like got together, but we were really close friends, and I like met her parents, and she met my parents, and like her mom's a psychoanalyst, and my mom's a psychoanalyst, and her dad's a doctor, and my dad's a doctor. We became really close friends, and at the time, she had this little brother who's I think maybe like 5 years younger than me, but when you're like 21, he was like 16, and he's like this little kid or whatever it was. We were 18, he was 13. And so he was like little guy. And so we always just thought of him as like the little brother. Anyway, so like 2 years ago, and anyway, he grew up to be like a big screenwriter and a showrunner and all this stuff in Hollywood. So 2 years ago, it comes up on Deadline that he's gonna direct his first film. So as a joke, I texted him, "Fine, ... I'll score your film," like as a joke. And I was just like, I was like kind of serious, like because it'd be cool because the people that are in it are cool and da da da. And then he wrote back, he like, "Yeah, whatever. Are you serious?" I was like, "Of course." And then like years passed, or like a year and a half passed, and then he called me and he goes, "Were you serious about scoring my film?" And I, I thought at the time I should have been like, "Nope," but I said, "Yes, of course." And so now I'm scoring his film. That's the story. And I was just like, that's how I got that job. And I don't know that I meant to, but it's great and it's really fun. And I don't usually deal in the sort of like horror comedy genre, so it's another side of my brain to work. So it's fun.
Yeah, so like I always am fascinated when I watch like the videos of people scoring films, and like I'll see like them going to this giant like orchestra. I think they were scoring one of the Spider-Man movies. Like that looks fucking cool. Yeah. And so you literally just you get like the movie done, and then you just sit there and write music for it.
Yeah, essentially. So like the way I work, and I think it's a lot of people work, is like you divide everything up into cues. And so it's like whether it's like 2 seconds or 2.5 minutes, like it's a cue. And then you write each cue separately and then you put them together and make a movie, right? But for the most part, it's like you take the movie, you bring it up on the screen, you take your program and it's very mathematical. So like you sort of figure out what the tempo is, what the feel is. The hardest thing is like the first cue, like figure out what the palette is of the movie. It's like if it's what instruments you're going to use. Because for the most part, like if you start with 8 instruments, you use the same 8 instruments the whole time. And if you start with like some theme, you use that theme kind of everywhere, which by the way is like every musical, every TV show, everything. Like Seinfeld, the bom, 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 bom. It's the same. It's more or less that the entire show, right? Which is brilliant. Anyway, so yeah, and so then you go cue by cue until you get it done, and sometimes it's tedious and really hard. It's very, like I said, it's like you're trying to match the cut of the movie or the feelings of the characters, and sometimes it can get like really micro and insane, and then sometimes it's more like these sweeping things that sort of just pass the time, or wallpaper music. Like in a lot of documentaries, it's just like I do a lot of those. You're trying to just like get the thing from A to B with it and like build it a little bit. Like you don't want to get in the way, but if it's dry, like if there's no music, it's like so boring. So anyway, it's a lot of that.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating because I feel like I turn on HBO and it's what's his name scoring everything now, or at least it was with like Game of Thrones and Westworld.
Ramin
Djawadi. Yeah.
He's amazing.
Well, and then I think he did like Gears of War 5 or 6, and you could tell though. You can always kind of tell when it's someone or like someone trying to copy that person because he has that very distinct. Like I love the Game of Thrones theme song.
Classic.
Oh my god. And same with Westworld.
Yeah. And like those guys it's the game world is so interesting. Like once the games got to those like role-playing games that were huge, or excuse me, like first-person shooter like Game of Thrones, or excuse me, Call of Duty and like Halo and those kind of things, they immediately just called up all the film score guys and was like, "You're doing this now." And they're like, "Okay." And it was like it's the same muscle, right? It's the same sort of epic, like dun 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 dun. And they just like sort of just use, and they pay those guys like money, and they just like sort of but the thing about the video games is like you have to write stuff that you can loop and that can like be on for hours, because as you all know if you play video games, like you could be on the same board, the same level for days sometimes, so it's like it's an interesting game, that stuff. But I've never done a video game, but it's like it's a whole other just sort of way of thinking about it, which I find to be fascinating. I love the fact that those composers can sort of do all that stuff.
Video game scores. I mean, Eric and I have been playing a lot of the new Elden Ring, Dark Rain, Night Rain, and the music is so fascinating because most of the time when you play a very fast-paced game, like you have chugging, just shredding guitar, double bass, but like we were fighting this boss. And it was like it was so pretty, the music.
Oh yeah, the boss is like it's like a butterfly that will absolutely fuck you up.
Fucking like a centipede, just dying over and over and over again.
But every time we get to the final boss,
feel good about it.
All those final bosses, their music is like, I'm like, oh, that's all. I don't usually pay attention to the music. I know I hear it, but I'm like, oh, this is really cool. It's putting me at ease. Dead every time.
Yeah. Don't you think it's also so funny that the video games that we grew up with, we could totally sing them all to each other right now. And those weren't like these big orchestral things because they couldn't put that in the game, right? So like Zelda and Mario Brothers, it's like you go like na 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 na, right? And like all that stuff. And it's like so complex and so cool, but it was on like an 8-bit video game 100 years ago, or like Mike Tyson's Punch Out or all that's, just like crazy. I think that's so cool that to me is like a discussion on melody, which is just like you could have the most complex orchestra thing or just like an 8-bit piano and it's still like that iconic, right? I think that's so interesting that those two things, which are so different, are sort of used in the same thing and they are both effective for their particular parts.
Well, and I think it's fascinating too because like I feel like as we age, like you're starting to see a lot of musicians now take like those scores on tour almost and like kind of reimagine them. So it's Bit Brigade, Eric, right? Like they'll play the entire soundtrack to a game while some dude speed runs it. And like
it's awesome.
And we pay fucking money to see that shit, because like we loved those songs and they're still fire to this day.
Yeah, it's wild.
And I think video games, at least for me, because I play a lot, like I am very more in tune with the score because you keep dying and you play it over and over again. A movie, I might only watch it once. And like, I think a good movie that I always think of is Interstellar. And Hans, like, I think that soundtrack is just fucking phenomenal. And I think a lot of people do as well. But there are some movies where it's like, 28 days later, 28 weeks later, that song that they play, like that's another one that like kind of sticks out to me. But like sometimes if the score is butt cheeks, it does kind of hinder, even if the movie is fire.
Yep.
It brings it down.
Or the other way around, when the movie's not great but the soundtrack is great. There's like, you're like, oh, I'll buy the soundtrack.
Yeah,
on
right.
CD.
Yeah, or I cassette maybe.
Yeah. Or like an 8-track or like whatever you want.
Isn't there somebody that's re-releasing or they're releasing a new album, but they're going back and they're putting it on cassette?
I just saw that. Yeah. Or there's like a film composer who had to like remaster his own score or like rework his own score for like is it Superman? There was like something like that where he took like his own stuff and like redid it. I don't know. Anyway.
But a lot of bands seem to be doing, so every band puts out an album and then that album always gets the vinyl release and you have 30 pressed in, blue squiggle, 50 pressed in pink squiggle. But I think the 1975, they are really like the 1975 are one of my favorite bands and they always do the cassette thing. Like and then I buy their cassettes and I can't do anything with them.
Right. It's like a VCR tape. What do you do with that?
How do I work this? Right.
No.
But I think people just buy that shit to collect it. Or I do see a lot of people buying the, I don't know who we were talking to, but he's like, I went on Amazon and bought a cassette player, and I'm trying to get my daughter in vinyl. Yeah,
my daughter bought a record player because she wanted vinyl, and so we buy her vinyl all the time. And she never really listens to it, but she does like looking at it and putting it on her wall.
Well, and that's the thing. So like, you're a musician. Like, is vinyl like the best sounding thing ever?
I mean, an argument can be made for like stuff that's like spatial audio and Dolby Atmos and all that other stuff is way more interesting to listen to, way more dynamically. Depends on how you like to listen to stuff, right? It's like, do you like the crackle and the warmth of a 45, or do you like the sort of all-encompassing feel of like 9-speaker Dolby surround, whatever the hell you're calling it these days? I don't know. There's so many arguments. I mixed a movie. I made the movie In the Heights like 100 years ago, it feels like, during COVID, and we mixed it on Dolby Atmos, and I've never done that, but it was so, you could like, it was like being in the middle of the movie as opposed to watching it in front of you, and so like, there was birds just flying around all the time. It was not unlike being in a theater where we do that kind of stuff all the time, where we put stuff in surrounds and stuff, which is super cool. And then sometimes you just want to like put in your headphones and like vibe out. Like I was at the gym 2 days ago and Alanis Morissette's, oh man, you really want na 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 na. Anyway, some song that's on her big album, and I was just like rocking out because I was like, I've not heard the song forever, and it sounds really good on my stupid AirPods, and it's awesome. And so like maybe it was like the time of the day or like how I was feeling or whatever, but just goes to show you that no matter what, or like I have these like beautiful speakers, and sometimes I come down here and listen to stuff, and then I'm like, it's too loud, I don't want to hear it on these, or like, oh, it sounds great, I don't know, it depends on the day or the minute or whatever.
I have a really bad habit of just listening to I'll listen to I have AirPods and I love my AirPods when I'm on the go, but I'll listen to music just from my phone
Yep,
speaker.
I do that all the time.
And right, and I'm like, man, I definitely even when I wrote our theme song, if I listen to it on the phone, it sounds like doo-doo butter. But when I listen to it through speakers, I'm here
Sounds great.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I mean, I get it. It's funny you mentioned Alanis Morissette. I was buying guitar gear from this dude that that was his baby. He just was in a cover band, but only from a specific time frame in her career. I feel like it's like in Step Brothers when he's doing the doo wop, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's funny that you brought that up.
Hold on, now I need to remember what the song is. It's not it's on Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah.
Do you really want is justice? And yeah. All I really want. I think it's that. Yeah. It was just hit me. That song's great, and I forgot about it, and then I had to Google all about it. And remembered that Glenn Ballard wrote that whole record, and it's that song. That whole record is just hit after hit after hit after hit. It's bananas.
Wasn't there a Broadway show?
There was
based off of. Was it based off of that album?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Did you have any part of that one?
I had nothing to do with that one. My friend Tom Kitt, he arranged and orchestrated the music to that and did an incredible job. And yeah, people love that show.
So is it I mean, because you do Broadway stuff, so you also know all the Broadway people, right?
Mhm.
So is it do you guys have giant meetings where you're hey, we're working on Beetlejuice or Stranger Things, here's something I'm working on, or
So the funny thing about Broadway is at the end of the day, it's 300 people. So it's not there are a million lawyers in the world and there are a million whatever. There are 300 people that do Broadway. I mean, it's probably 500 people given the stage hands and all the other folk. But for the most part, there's if you look at it, there's an average of 10 to 12 people in a band. There's 20 or so musicals. That's 200 people. It's all, my point is it's all very small and everybody knows everybody, right? So once something is announced, you always know who's doing it or ahead of time because we're all friends and we all know each other. And so you get calls to do all kinds of weird things. People are trying to so what's been happening in the last 5 to 10 years is recording artists have been selling their catalogs, for $200 million or whomever to major whomevers. And so those people, so Sony and Universal are trying to do something with the $200 million catalog that they just bought. So a lot of people think that they should turn it into a musical because you have successes with things like A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical, or with and Juliet, which is what I worked on, which is a super successful musical that it's all of Max Martin songs from the past 25 to 30 years. And now there's a Prince musical. There's a bunch. Anyway, and back to what you asked is yes, everybody knows everybody. So there's 10, 12 guys who are orchestrators and arrangers who kind of do what I do and music supervisors. And then there's and then there's the band leaders and the players and the blah, blah, blah. That's all it's all the same people and it's small.
Well, and it's funny because we went and saw, I think it was 2017 when Brandon Urie from Panic was
and
Kinky Boots. And it was fucking phenomenal. I mean, it was so good. And that was kind of I was wow, Broadway, I've been missing out my entire life. That's the only time I've ever been. And, I know Hamilton, I think you know a little bit about that, but
yeah.
So I've never been able to get out there, but it's such I guess there's really no experience like that. Right.
So I feel like it's such a weird world. It's it's so New York, right? And but what's sort of happening lately is that I think the spectacle of Las Vegas a little bit is sort of inching its way into Broadway. And I think the ticket prices on Broadway are high, as are the ticket prices in Las Vegas. And I think if you're going to charge that much money for a ticket, you're going to want to be you're going to want to leave with a smile or leave telling your friends a story or leave seeing something that you can tell people about or something like that, And so I think that the musicals, it's a tough time right now for independent small musicals. So Real Women Have Curves just closed and Dead Outlaw were these small, really great pieces of art that just couldn't sell tickets. And so I think the things that are a little more spectacle-y, if you will, sort of and Juliet and Beetlejuice, like you said, Moulin Rouge, shows like that, where it's a little more bang for your buck. I know that sounds so cheap, but like that's sort of the method that we're in right now. And so it's hard for those smaller musicals to sort of make an impact when they're up against like Aladdin and like, The Lion King and like all this other Disney stuff that's just like, if you get to come to New York once a year, once every 5 years, and you want to see one Broadway show, what are you trying to see? Or like, it's like, are you trying to like bring the kids? And like, that's the other thing. It's like a lot of shows sort of play to demographics that are too specific. And so like, you can't bring your kids to see whatever because they wouldn't get it or they're too old for it or too young for it, whatever.
So Eric and I are actually coming to New York in a couple of weeks where we're like doing a concert, like we're doing the podcast for this concert. But what would be like a good show? Like, I don't even know what's out anymore.
You have to come see Aunt Juliet. That's my show. And I'll get you tickets. Just let me know when you want to come. You have to come see Aunt Juliet.
Okay.
That's my show. You'll love it. It's also like every banger from the past 20 years.
Okay. So I think, is that like NSYNC and like Backstreet Boys? Okay. All right. So I've been seeing a lot of, I'm getting a lot of ads. I think my algorithm knows, man. Like it knows we were going to have this interaction. Yeah, no, that sounds great.
It's great. It's really fun. It's like a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. And it's like, it's like Kelly Clarkson and Britney Spears. And like, it's a big party and it's really well done. And it's really fun to listen to. And it sounds fantastic. So just let me know when you want to come.
Sounds great, man. Thank you. Yeah,
of course.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that solves because we had no idea like what we were like. What are we trying to do?
We're there for 2 nights. Yeah. The other night we had
the other show.
No plans.
If you don't want to see that, is it's called Just in Time. I don't know if you're familiar with Bobby Darin, but like Splish Splash and Just in Time and Dream Lover and da 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 da. It's a musical about his life that I just produced the album, or I'm working on the album. And the guy who stars in it is this guy named Jonathan Groff, who you might know from like he's in the Frozen movies. He's Sven and
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, he plays Bobby Darin, and it's amazing and it's really fun to watch. But if you don't want to see Juliet, see that. There you go.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, I hear like, so the last time we were there, everyone was we went to New York to see Kinky Boots. Like my wife had to see Brendan Urie like on Broadway. But yeah, right. And he was. But everyone, they were all in Times Square at that little like kiosk. Like, I guess just buying, is that like they push tickets out for shows coming up and you get what you get, or?
No, so that's like you can get just heavily discounted tickets. So that's like if a show isn't selling tickets at the price they want, they give it to TDF, I think is what you're talking about. Yeah. And then you go and get tickets for just a less price, but you have to stand in the line around that thing and do the whole thing. So
yeah, well, and then you do that, and then like Mario and Sonic come up to you and try to solicit pictures. So it's
there's that. There's the Hare Krishna guys selling bracelets. There's Elmos and life size, Iron Man and the whole thing.
I love like the pictures of like the Mario smoking the cigarette and the Elmo's got his head off like ready to fight somebody. It's great.
Yeah, it's all we got everything in Times Square. There's nothing you can possibly not get there.
Well, and it's funny too because like we're in Delaware, so it's not like we're far, but I still like I have family in New York, but I can't tell you like I hardly go. It's just so expensive, man.
It's very expensive and kind of ridiculous. Can I ask you a question about Delaware?
Yeah.
Were you guys as native Delawareans? Is that a thing? Delawareans?
Yeah.
Delawareans. Offended when in Wayne's World when he goes, "Hi, I'm in Delaware," because like to people, there's like okay, for what it's worth. I'm saying myself, I do not have a vast relationship with Delaware other than the following things, is that my dad is from Hazleton, Pennsylvania. So he always has to go through the Delaware Water Gap and shoot the gap. That's my dad's favorite thing to say in the whole wide world and do. And there's an incredible bakery in the town of Delaware Water Gap that my ex-wife's friend used to own. And so I would go there and he owns a sporting goods store and a bakery and it's delicious and awesome. And that's the only things I know about Delaware. Done with my question. Are you offended by my idiocy? Because you can be, and that's fine.
So it's funny. So
Eric's like, no.
Well, so like Eric and I both born and raised here. And growing up for me, it was always like, I'm going to leave this place, but now I'm going to die here. And I love Delaware.
I love this place so much. Anytime I hear a Delaware reference, I'm up here. I'm on the moon.
Well, and it's funny too because like. So we don't have sales tax, right? So we have the Christiana Mall and we have one of the most profitable Apple stores here. So people will come from New York, they'll come from Maryland, they'll come from PA because no sales tax. So an iPhone is $1,100. It's not $1,600, so they're getting it at face value. But no, it's funny. I think I was watching The Sopranos And there's a scene where he's like, "Oh, he's from Dover, Delaware."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "That's such a like an interesting." And I think
Yes.
Eric is in The Simpsons when you can win a trip to Wilmington, Delaware.
It's the Screen Door Factory in Wilmington, Delaware.
You know what though? Delaware is one of those things where like everyone has been through here at some point. No one really stops, except we had a band on last week, First to 11, and he was like, we were at the Christiana Mall, and they have the best watch selection. So like that's what I remember about Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't think it's offended. But like some people, yeah, they'll feel some sort of way. Like, like Delaware's the shit, man. I mean, it's cool. I love it here. You know, it's cheaper than a lot of places. We're close to everything.
I grew up on Long Island, and I said to myself when I moved, my parents moved to Manhattan when I went to college, and I said, I'm never moving back to Long Island. So instead, I now have places in New Jersey and Westchester, which is more or less just another Long Island, but at least it's not Long Island. So I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for us, like, I don't know. I don't ever see really a reason why. Like we even talked about like when we get a studio, like it'll be here in Delaware. You know, like this is like kind of what like where we are. But like I know for my wife, she's from St. Louis, and so it was always like and she like her family. They moved a lot. Her dad traveled for work, so they moved, and she kind of wanted that too. But then when we got our careers here and got situated here and got settled here, no. This is it. And there aren't a whole lot of podcasters here. So, you know,
there you go.
Really, maybe Eric and I can break out, you know.
We got the market.
That's why we're
you guys are on the way.
Yeah, we're trying.
I really have the market here in bump-ass Virginia.
Yeah, I don't know. You
Is it really called that? Is it really called that?
It's really called bump-ass Virginia, yes.
Oh, wait.
One word.
You're being serious? You were saying it so much.
Oh, I am 100% in bump-ass Virginia.
It is.
We're in Lake Anna.
But do they call it like bump-ass? Or is it bump-ass?
Do you have to put some like respect on their name?
Bumpus or something, for sure. Every Bumpassian is going to hate me after this. Come for me, Bumpassian.
So hold on. So just so we're clear, Bump-ass is an unincorporated area in Louisiana County, Virginia. Its post office is still in service. The fact that they put that as the second sentence on Wikipedia.
Still in service?
Still in service. Hold on. National Historic Places registered in Bump-ass include the Duke House and Jerdone Castle. The latter is a plantation, now lakefront, where George Washington spent the night on June 10th during his 1791 Southern tour. That is fantastic.
So
now I see where Bump-ass is. Okay, there you go. Bump-ass.
So what gets you out there?
A lake, and our friends with a boat. So
the boat.
That's all you need.
Boat thing. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The boat thing.
That's it. That's literally
say no more. I'll come. I'm sold. If you needed a friend, I can come be at your wedding, and your mom can hit on me. Whatever you need.
Yes.
And then you can be. You will have to add. You will have to loop you in. I'll have to bring my mom. And then we'll have to
Can
add
you guys just invite me to like the next family thing where Greg, your mom is in attendance, because I need to see this like firsthand, because I need to ask so many questions.
I mean, she like is in love with Eric, and then ironically enough, Eric is in love with my sister-in-law too. So like it's like this.
So you guys basically are related. So
yeah,
it's fucking.
I will be related to you one day, Greg.
Yeah, somehow. Somehow.
I wish it froze like that. That would have been great. Anyway, sorry.
No. It's funny because Eric, you're like getting like real like choppy.
Oh, am I?
Every time I watch you speak,
it's probably time to wrap this up. Yeah.
All right, Bill.
More beers to drink. Anyway,
yeah, right. Come on, we're starting it back up. All right, but Jam Van so the album is out.
Yes, the episodes are on YouTube. Go check them out. Just type Jam Van cartoon. It's really cool. It looks fantastic. And the album is out now. And please go listen to it. Stream it. Don't buy the CD because there are none. And listen to it and enjoy it and tell your friends about it and post it on places and tag me and do all that stuff. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bill, for taking time to talk with us, man. This was awesome.
Appreciate it. This has been super fun. Thanks so much for having me. This was
absolutely,
awesome.
man.
Best way to spend a freaking Tuesday ever.
Yes. Thank you.